in. So it's an exciting time for them. And today is their scheduled delivery date. So congratulations, and we give them our thoughts and prayers. Everything goes well.
Absolutely.
So, but again, Adam couldn't have been a more better host. We ended up having 10 players, and it rained on us all the way up there. It just happened to miraculously end as we pulled into the front gate. And then we went out and played Cape Fear, which is just in phenomenal shape.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better layout of a golf course as far as challenging and just beautiful, scenic, and, you know, it's always in good shape. I mean,
by the way, Jeff, Andre Popoloff, who I had reviewed, I went on the golfdirector.com and went to Cape Fear National's website. And, of course, you did all the aerial photos and the aerial video of each hole by hole by hole. So we finished 9, made the turn, and we check in at the clubhouse there to get something to drink. And Andre comes up to me in his broken English and says, that video does not do this place service. Meaning, you know.
Oh, it's a golf course.
He said this is, without a doubt, the best golf course he had played in the Grand Strand.
Yeah, it's awful good.
Yeah, so we had a blast, a lot of fun. Saw our gators, saw baby gators, saw big gators. Greens were just perfect. So, you know, again, it's always fun. Adam actually joked with me checking in that the next time I should come up there would be June or July, when there probably is going to be, you know, a need for rain.
Yeah, it'll be as dry as possible.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And what will happen is Adam said, I'll book you. You'll come up here, and we'll get 1.5 inches. So
you're the rain god.
I'm the rain god. Yeah. I bring it with me. So thanks again to Adam and the entire staff at Cape Fear National for hosting the Saturday golf group. We had a blast. Andre Popoloff shot the low round for the day with 73. And that included 3 3-putts and a double bogey. He had 6 birdies, and it was a lot of fun to watch him play from the tips. And so we had a lot of fun doing that. I will have to do a shout-out to Jim Mermaid Marion, who ended up going with us. And Mr. Merriman had to come back yesterday and see me at the CPC Center out at Barefoot to get his hosels regrooved. So
really, had some Chinese pitch outs going on, huh?
Jim had a rough day, let's say. Jim shot the reverse of my number that I posted. How about that? I shot 78.
Yeah, that's not Jim's normal.
No. He actually played pretty good on the back. So,
you know,
but he posted a smooth 87.
Like the legend used to say. Confucius say, man who hit pitch out shoot very high score.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I joked with him yesterday. I said, Jim, where's your clubs? He goes, what do you mean, George? You know how he does, post that chest. What do you mean, George? I said, you ought to bring them inside. Let me regroove those hosels for you. I said, looked like you were losing some spin.
Oh, geez. Oh, man.
All right. Well, Hugh, busy weekend, of course, in the golf world. We talked about it last week, and of course, they began the Texas two-step, the Valero Open out in Texas, and a local boy, one of our forecast, players to watch for, Mr. Jimmy Walker, ends up kind of running away with this thing.
I tell you what, it really could have gotten real bad. You know, I think that, it just got to a point where he was like, all right, let's just get this thing over with. But, it was kind of interesting. You know, everybody talks about how, and we've talked about it, George, about how, he's just kind of laid back under the radar, doesn't like the limelight and all that. But he doesn't have a choice anymore.
Yeah.
They were mentioning yesterday on the broadcast that, he's top 10 player in the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to admit to it or
right.
give him that. But young man's proven it.
Well, he's not flamboyant. He doesn't live on social media. He's not outwardly that personality that you want to attach yourself to.
Mm-hmm.
But he starts the day off 5 shots in the lead. He ends up winning the event by 4. Jordan Spieth, of course, Jordan playing great golf, made a run there at the end. I mean, had 4 birdies on the back 9.
Well, I mean, he had to because, when I turned it on yesterday, I want to say he had 6-7 shot lead. During
the round.
Everybody was at 2 under par, and he was sitting at 10 or 11. And and the shot the one shot that I saw as I turned it on was he was in that fairway bunker with that big lip in front of him and hit a 7-iron 100 and probably 75, 80 yards out of the bunker. And I'm like going, there's no way. I'm figuring he's having to lay up, and the guy flies it in the middle of the green.
He seemed to be playing a different golf course.
Yes.
But then again, too, he was just very, very consistent in his ball striking throughout the 4 days.
Yeah.
And that kind of separated him. They had some weather issues on the first day. The winds were not blowing in their normal southerly direction. Very high winds. There were a couple times where they actually thought about stopping the event because there was suspected ball movements on the greens
balls
and things
are
like that.
no question.
And they were out syringing some greens, which is really, really unheard of, especially since Shinnecock.
Yes.
And so there was some nuances to Thursday's round, but again, Jimmy kind of put himself up there. Jordan Spieth kind of shot well that day. We saw Dustin Johnson shoot 78. We saw Phil Mickelson shoot a high number. So there was the tournament kind of set itself up to say, okay, let's see who's going to kind of gather in. And I really thought Friday and Saturday, when the winds died down, Hugh, that they would start shooting some really, really low numbers. But the golf course this year, for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, but the golf course seemed to protect itself this year.
It played awful tough. I mean, protect itself, however you want to put it. It played like a tour golf course should play.
Mm.
You look
good,
at the
good observation.
You look at the scores that they've shot. I mean, nobody shot lights out. I mean, yesterday,
there
4
was,
under par was low yesterday.
There wasn't the 63s. There wasn't the 64s that you were really expecting.
Yeah.
And, they can get out there and as they start lighting these greens up, and the guys were having problems with the putts. Some of them were getting away from them. Some of them were coming up short. They were having problems with the run-up areas. Some of them weren't playing enough club, not playing too much. And, of course, we had the periodic stray drive that popped out there.
Well, if you missed a fairway, you were done.
Well, we all remember Kevin Na's 16 last year, and, of course, the famous interview question afterwards, Kevin, how did you make 16? And he goes, well, I made a 6-footer.
Yeah.
For 16. So,
well, and you look at it, I think, a lot of the bunkers, George, I mean, you look at the fairway bunkers to the greenside bunkers. I mean, they were deep. They were pretty intimidating looking. And, I mean, a lot of guys, you saw them all day yesterday shooting away from those bunkers.
Mm. Well, it's going to be interesting. Again, I mentioned the Texas two-step. They've gone to Valero outside of San Antonio. Jimmy Walker, kind of a hometown boy. It is basically he's not far from there. Jordan Spieth was making a run, again, another Texas boy. But now Jimmy is heading up to Jordan's backyard, per se, at Houston. That's not too far. Jordan's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But, again, this Texas two-step in Houston has prepped the golf course to hopefully mimic many of the shots maybe that they will see the following week at Augusta. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. Phil Mickelson, rough tournament. Really, I see him going downward instead of picking up or peaking in time for the Masters. I don't see him really making a push for at Augusta. I don't know. It just seemed like he's still having issues with putts. He's still having issues with, he's never been a short game problem area.
Yeah.
But he had a couple get away from him over the weekend. Ended up costing him bogeys. And, of course, he had the famous bunker shot where he had to immediately call the CEO of Callaway and have an 8-iron shipped to him immediately. So the head just goes snapping off after playing his shot out of the bunker. And that's unique and rare, but it does happen.
Oh, it happens. I mean, you can't do anything about it if you get a little bit of rust or whatnot, not enough epoxy in the head, and all of a sudden –
I can't imagine it was rust. None of these players' clubs are actually laying in there for. They're not like you and put a club in and it lays there for 14 years. So.
Yeah, well, that's just those. They get to practice and play every day. But that's, those things do happen. I mean, it's just a mistake. It could be a flaw in whatever, whether it be the shaft or whatnot. So that's the thing. But like we were talking earlier with Jeff Gilder, our producer. I tell you. It just more and more I see him, more and more I'm starting to believe that he's back, and he's back in a full way. And it's Dustin Johnson to finish with a pair of 68s on the weekend after opening with 78 and finishing up there as high as he did, finishing tied for 6. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he did come back, and again the 78. You know, you would like to have seen him maybe take that 78 and post a 71, 72 on the first day, considering the weather, and that would have really said, yeah, he's actually up there, ready for the first major of the year.
Yeah,
that would have really sold me on that fact. I tell you, considering Jordan last year finishing second at Augusta, and considering his most recent play, he now has 2 top 5s. He's got 3 top 10s. He's got 7 or 8 top 20s. He's already won $2 million for the year. He's second in the FedEx Cup points standings. So, Jordan that young man's going to have to be looked at next week at Augusta.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of people we're going to watch it. A lot of people we're going to be paying attention to,
and Jimmy Walker again.
How do you not?
This is Jimmy's first win east of the Mississippi, or excuse me, east versus west. All of his previous wins have been West Coast wins.
Yeah.
And so this is the quote unquote, I guess you could say, Midwest win for him. But again, Jimmy is if he gets that putter going to where he goes around these courses and 21 to 23 putts, 26 putts, 25 putts, I don't know. He's just Mr. Consistent. And
I'm not going to argue with you one bit. I think there's a lot to be seen, and Houston will be a good this
test.
week will be a good test to kind of give us an idea of who we're going to pick and what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's also check in. Going on down in Mississippi was the Champions Tour, of course, the Mississippi Golf Resort Classic, and you noted before we went on the air, Hugh, and I agreed with this. The golf course kind of looked better than it has in quite some time.
I tell you what, George, those greens looked awful good. I mean, you see a lot of shots in there, and those balls were trickling out. I mean, they had some speed to them. They looked, they didn't look dark green. They didn't look like they were burnt out. They just had that kind of nice, I don't know what the color would be, but just a real light green, little, lime green look, I guess, to them. And you watch them hit putts, and I mean, they had some pace to them.
Oh, a lot of pace. A lot of pace, no doubt about it. And I think you saw that in the frustration levels. And I think because of the pace of the greens, you see one David Frost, who is, I mean, he kind of lives up to his nickname, one of his nicknames, Frosty, because we went out there, he played fat part of the greens. He just went out there and let everything rest on his putter. And the likes of a Colin Montgomery and the Tom Lamons and all those were trying to chase after him. And when they got a little bit aggressive, Hugh, that's when the greens jumped up and bit them.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of good shots go in there that guys hit good shots. Okay, you got a chance for a birdie. Next thing you know, they 3-putt. And then I watched. They showed Tom Pernice. He drove in a fairway bunker on a par 5, got it out, had 280. Then he hits it up, stymied up against a tree.
Yeah,
just a lot of mistakes that you can't make on a golf course like that because
when you're playing
a lot of room.
When you're playing catch up, you're doing what you can and what you think you have to do because they pretty much knew Frosty was not going to give it away.
Yeah, David hits it awful straight, and he knows when he's playing well, he has control of his golf ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to catch him. I mean, I was glad to see Kevin Sutherland bring it back a little bit and get close.
Well, Kevin, had the one PGA Tour win, and then we basically didn't even know if he was still around playing golf.
Yeah.
And now we see him on the Champions Tour, and it was good to see him there, but you could see the nerves.
Oh, yeah.
You could see the nerves, no doubt about it.
And that's why you play. You want it. You live for that. That's what helps you.
But he
get up
finishes
every day.
He finishes one shot back and ends up with a birdie in the last 3 holes and finishes at 9 under, one behind David, and then Lehman's right behind him. Colin Montgomery really a couple of bogeys late, and it was purely because Colin was getting aggressive.
Yeah.
He was eyeing the leaderboard. There was no doubt about it. So, and Colin, again, continues his good play from last year into this year. So, congratulations to David Frost. It was a good win for him. And, we saw Marcus last week and David now this week. So, where last year we kept every week after week after week, we were just saying Bernhard Langer, Bernhard Langer, Bernhard Langer. So now we're seeing Bernhard not up there now. And so the wealth is being spread. would you say?
Nice to see.
Yeah.
A little bit of variety, and you're starting to see some guys kind of pick their game up, but probably in the off season doing a little more to get ready to get going instead of just, okay, I'm going to go play the Champions Tour, make a little money and whatever.
Yeah, watched a little bit of Freddie over the weekend, Freddie Couples, looking at how he looked getting ready for Augusta. Because Freddie, he's just going to go out and he can shoot 69 all 4 days at Augusta. And I don't know. I don't know whether he's just kind of withdrawn and waiting to release it. The tiger, the inner tiger, whatever. So I don't know. He just didn't look to seem crisp. I don't know. Is he struggling? Do you see him having some physical issues right now?
It doesn't look like it. I mean, I saw him. I flipped over yesterday. Like I said, we were doing yard work and stuff, but I got inside and time to watch him kind of finish up and watching the shot he hit into 18. I mean, he bombed a tee shot on 18.
Right, he did.
Beautiful shot in there. Played the slope down there. So I mean, the swing looks fine. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of where's his head at. I think that's more of the question of it.
He does have an ADD issue. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
Gets a little bored.
Yeah, a little bored. So another tournament is going on, Hugh, and I've got some real knowledge of this because I've played the golf course several times. When I was in the corporate community in the medical fields, my corporate office was actually about 8 miles down the road from this place, and we're talking about Aviera. And so that was our backyard. And whenever we'd go out for meetings or whatever, we wanted to get in a quick 9, we went to Aviera. The company had a membership there. So the Kia Classic was at Aviera, and the girls really, this is not an easy golf course. You kind of look at it and you say, okay, they got the tees moved up, and they can drive 16, and they can do this. And, Christy Kerr ends up hitting it with a 3-wood. Mm-hmm. But however, you got to consider her entry area into that green with that 3-wood is about 11 yards wide. And so for her to be able to hit the draw down that hill, keeping it outside of the tree, keeping it outside the 3-inch rough that sits around this green, and execute that shot. Again, she did not make the eagle, but she made another routine birdie. And you could tell Christy was in the moment, really basically from number 9 on. And so congratulations to Christy Kerr. Picks up her 17th win on the LPGA Tour, and she ends up at 20 under par. Miriam Lee, boy, is this little girl just got talent galore. I mean, she can pound a golf ball.
Well, I mean, you look at it, you go out and shoot 18 under and you lose.
Yeah.
You just got to just shake the lady's hand and
That's
say
right.
Congratulations.
That's right.
I mean, you go out and shoot 18 under par. I mean, you've played some pretty solid golf.
Well, Christy Kerr ended up at 6 under par for the day, shot 66. So
65.
65,
Yeah.
excuse me, 65.
Yeah.
So you got to consider she basically went out there and said, okay, this one's mine, and I'm not going to give it up.
Oh, yeah.
And then who do we have right there in third place that was actually making a run
The
for
name
it?
we talk about every week, Lydia Ko. Little girl just keeps banging away.
17 years
away.
old.
Unreal.
So this week, the first major of the year for the 2015 season is the LPGA this week. And, of course, the famous jump in the lake. Jump in the concrete pond, as you want to call it.
There we go. Back out to California.
Back out to California. This thing has gone through so many names and sponsors and all that, but it is the first major championship for the women. And is it, here it is. Lydia Ko at 17 years old, Hugh, has 12 major championship starts.
That's impressive.
Were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
12 major championship starts. Now, she doesn't have a win, but she has, I think there was 2 seconds, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 15s or top 20s.
Wow, that's impressive. I tell you, and George, like you said, they've changed sponsorships on this tournament a bunch, but it'll always be the Dinah Shore.
I agree.
I mean,
the bathrobe.
She's the lady that made her famous, so
yeah.
That's where it should stay.
Yeah. I really do believe that. Again, as these celebrities / whoever the tournaments are named after that founded the events or whatever after they pass on, we see a lot of times like Jamie Farr, we see a lot of times their foundations end up going in other directions or dissolving altogether. But if there was some way that we could keep it the Dinosaur and it just be reciprocating,
Well, you would think it
perpetual.
would be, because, I mean, you hear them talk about the Crosby and it's a clam bake.
Yeah.
Even though it's AT&T now, whatever, it's still, you get the digs and the things from the people that, the Crosby, the clam bake,
Right.
The Bob Hope.
Right.
Even though it's a different sponsor now out in Palm Springs, everybody still calls it the Hope.
The Desert Classic.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way it should stay for this one. And like you said, for Jamie Farr with the tournament and stuff, I keep that aura there. That's what keeps the history around.
Well, that's what got them started.
Exactly.
And they wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the Jamie Farrs and the Dinosaurs and the Bing Crosbys and the likes. It wouldn't be around.
Well, I mean, you look at the Masters. I mean, yes, it will stay the Masters, but who do they talk about all the time?
Bobby.
It's Clifford Roberts and Bobby Jones. And
Yeah.
I mean, that hasn't gone away. So be respectful, and let's do the same for the rest that have done stuff for the rest of the tours.
Well, again, Christy Kerr, congratulations to her. Wins at 20 under par. This was her tournament, and she wasn't going to let it go. Hugh, another event that happened over the weekend before we take a break here. One of the more unique golf courses I think I've ever observed, witnessed, watched. I was real anxious this morning to ask if you had ever played this place. Did you ever go to Morocco and participate at the Hassan?
No.
This golf course, folks, if you weren't able to catch it on television, if you haven't seen it in years past, this golf course basically has no one on it, not one player. It is not a pay-to-play golf course. It's entirely within the quote-unquote walls and fences of the Royal Palace in Morocco. And for 7 months, there's not a player.
You don't have to worry about divots, do you?
No. You talking about a pristine, absolutely sterile golf course? I mean, it's just, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's a great layout, and it's very tricky. The par fives, they purposely, with the vegetation and the growth and the trees and all that, I mean, they made 3-shot holes out of them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. The par threes are all healthy. They're huge, huge greens and undulated like crazy. And they were showing some of the hand cutting with scissors around the bunkers and things of that sort, much like you'd see in Asia or whatever. But what was, as far as the course being prepared for these players, and again, folks, this is not a pay-for-play. You just can't walk up and go play this place.
This is one of those you get to play because you got invited.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And the royal family sitting there in the observation area watching the groups finish up. And, bless his heart, Richie Ramsey comes from 5 back at the start of the day, and he finds himself trying to make a push in the first couple of holes, and then all of a sudden he bogeys, and he makes bogey on 7, and then he makes a triple on 6. He bogeys 7, triples 6. And you would think, take that toast out of the oven. It's done.
Yeah. See you later.
And lo and behold, he comes back with birdies on 12, 13, and 14. And those others that were up there at the leaderboard, they start coming backwards. And then all of a sudden he finds himself tied, and then he finds himself in the lead by 1, and then he finds himself in the lead by 2. And so he ends up shooting 10 under par. He posts not an impressive, but an okay 69 for the day. And he ends up winning this thing, his 3rd win on the European Tour. And he just, you could tell how emotional he was in his acceptance of the trophy, and which given to him, of course, by the king. And, he just, this meant the world to him, to his brother and his wife, and who were back in Scotland, rooting him on.
Yeah.
And so congratulations to Richard Ramsey. I mean, the nerves. I mean, when you sit there and watch the hands doing this and you see it on television, but he had to make about a 3.5 footer for par on 18. He'd center cut it. Congratulations.
Congratulations. I tell you what, imagine sitting there and inside the walls of a
and
palace,
the royal
families right there.
Yeah.
That couldn't have helped. It couldn't have helped.
Well, I mean, they had a good turnout. I mean, not the crowds that you normally see, but they had a good turnout, and you could tell that people were reserved.
Oh, they had to be.
You could tell there was reserve.
Yeah,
you know,
you get in trouble over there. It's
There
not
wa-
like you going to prison.
Jeff, you may want. There wasn't the who's the you the man. You know, there wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
And you could tell that very small crowds, hole to hole to hole, following the groups along. You didn't hear the ovacious applause, the screaming. You didn't, hear the oohs and the ahs that you normally hear
Yeah.
at an event, European or U.S. But it was just kind of. I mean, you sit and look at this property, the ocean, but you see they weren't really supposed to show it, from my understanding, what I got wind of on Twitter and some of the other stuff. But there's like a 14-foot chain link fence that runs around the property, and it's got an overhang, barbed wire,
Yeah.
razor wire, and that is the outer boundary of the palace. And then there is armed military that is roaming this road that sits outside the fence. And then, of course, the golf course weaves itself inside the palace walls and then comes back out.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there going, dude.
That would have to be intimidating. I would have to say, I mean, that would be one of those things like you're going, okay, let me make sure that I'm dressed properly and I'm not saying something I'm not supposed to say. And
I'd have to pull out 2 cans of Dapper Dan.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
Make sure the hair didn't blow.
I understand.
Well, it was a good weekend for golf. I'm looking forward somewhat to Houston to kind of look at my trends, my picks again, kind of see who's going to fire up for Augusta. I hope Phil does. I really do. Again, we don't know if Tiger's going to play or not. I guess we really won't find out about Tiger until almost time for the first tee shot at Augusta.
Yeah.
They don't have the quote-unquote week before cutoff that everybody else does.
Yeah.
So
you don't have a deadline to get your entry name in.
Well, he's there.
Commitment.
He's already got his, he's already in the slot. So it's not like he's going anywhere. And they're not worried about inviting somebody that he takes a slot up for.
Oh, it won't be an invitation.
So
So
I guess we'll wait and see. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured course pages, where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. Need help with your next golf vacation? Just call Dave. Give Dave a call at 844-GO-GOLF-1, 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand. Catch up on any show you may have missed, just click on the TGD Radio or the TGD TV tabs in the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. We're now available on over 1 billion devices at iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Blueberry, and, of course, Myrtle Beach Golf app. For Hugh Roy III, I'm George Honeycutt and Jeff Behind the Glass. We want to thank you for tuning in. There's more golf news, information coming up next.
Oh yeah.
You like that? Hey, dude. I got home yesterday afternoon. I wasn't feeling well, and I went inside and put that on the stereo.
Cheered you up, didn't
It just calmed me down.
it? Yeah.